open season.
What's going on, guys? It's D-Ben. I hope y'all have a blessed day today. And if you enjoy having open conversation to your favorite season, please make sure to subscribe as we are on our way to 100 subs. Here we go. So, I've been asking myself the following question a handful of times. Why hasn't the trio of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden been able to win a championship together? Shoot, why haven't they won multiple championships together? Think about it. You got three of the greatest scorers of our generation, potentially of all time, all on the same team, with Kevin Durant the most gifted scorer of all time, and the most efficient, if I may add, and then Kyrie Irving, arguably the most skilled ball handler and finisher at the rim, and then James Harden, one of the greatest perimeter scorers we've ever seen, and an extremely gifted facilitator. With that, these guys only played 16 games together. Mind you, the NBA regular season consists of 82 games. In a span of a year and a half, these guys only played 16. That's mind-blowing. So how does this happen? Well, it's simple. Injuries have not been kind to this group. This cannot be more true, but in their first season together. Before I get into the injuries, I need to talk about the potential we witnessed this trio display in their first playoff series against the Boston Celtics. Remember that scoring ability I was talking about? Well, they put on a show in Game 4, combining for 104 points, which tied a playoff record for 3 teammates. Now get this, Kevin Durant had 42 points on 20 shots, with 14 shots made. That's at a 70% clip. And Kyrie Irving, well, he had a smooth little double-double with 39 points and 11 boards for a point guard, 6'3". And James Harden, well, he also had a little double-double of his own with 23 points, and that playmaking ability I was talking about added with 18 assists. And not only that, he went on to average a double-double in that series against the Boston Celtics, averaging 27.8 points and 10.6 assists. Come on, the potential was there. Despite their success in the first round of the playoff, dismantling the Celtics in a 4-1 victory, the trio never made it past the second round. In the second round, they played the Milwaukee Bucks, and right on schedule, the injury bug began to hit. James Harden is forced to leave Game 1 after a hamstring injury within a minute into the game. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And then Kyrie Irving, in Game 4, goes up for a layup, then on his way down, he lands on Giannis's foot, injuring his ankle, forced out the game, and then goes on to sit the entire series. Luckily, James Harden did return in Game 5, but was never the same player after sustaining the hamstring injury. But the craziest part in all this is the Brooklyn Nets still nearly won the series on the shoulders of Kevin Durant alone. If it wasn't for Kevin being a couple inches behind the arc, they win the series. Remember this shot?
Durant, here is Durant moving on Tucker. He turns, he shoots. Yes!
Gotta give props to Kevin Durant for keeping his team in the fight, as he did have 2 monster games that kept his team alive. In Game 5, he almost had a 50-point triple-double with 49 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. And in that clip I showed you in Game 7, I believe he ended up with 47 points, but that still wasn't enough because the trio wasn't fully healthy. And as I mentioned, injury played a big part in the lack of success of this trio, though it was not the sole reason. Aside from injuries, the trio had to face a lot of adversity and dysfunction, which led to all 3 members requesting a trade from Brooklyn. First off, there was a time where Kyrie Irving left the organization for a handful of weeks unannounced for personal reason. At least that's the way it was reported initially, as the team had no clue where it was at. And of course, this impeded in the team chemistry building. Obviously, there was a time where he refused to take the shot, which resulted in him missing 29 games last season. James Harden, now with the Philadelphia 76ers, was asked in his introductory press conference if Kyrie Irving's lack of availability played a part in him leaving the organization, which he responded to.
Very minimal, honestly. Like, obviously, me and Kyrie are really good friends. Whatever he was going through or is still going through, that's his personal preference. But it definitely did impact the team.
Outside of Kyrie, Brooklyn was dysfunctional as an organization, according to James Harden. After he returned to the Barclays Center to face the Brooklyn Nets for the first time since his decision to leave and land in Philly, Harden gave some more insight in his time in Brooklyn. When asked if Brooklyn could have kept him if they chose to operate differently, this is what he said.
Yeah, there was, like a lot of things, but it was just a lot of dysfunction, clearly, but it was a lot of internal things that I'm not going to ever just say, put in the media or anything, and that was one of the reasons why I chose to make my decision. But now, fast forward to date, I don't look like the crazy one. I don't look like the guy or the quitter or whatever the media want to call me. I knew what was going on and I just decided to, hey, I'm not built for this. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to play basketball and have fun and enjoy doing it. And fast forward to date, they've got a whole new roster.
With Harden's admission, it is evident that Brooklyn played a part in the lack of success of this trio. They were not given enough time to mesh and build an identity as a unit. Now you may be asking, what do I mean by identity? So let me explain. Let's take the two teams they faced in the playoffs. The Boston Celtics have consistently been contenders in the East. They've made it to the Eastern Conference 4 out of the 7 times since 2017. Now why is that? Well, one reason I gotta give, Danny Ainge was able to hit on his draft picks because their core players in Marcus Smart, the Harden soul, Al Horford, who I believe was an acquisition, is a very reliable big, and their two budding stars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who we can now call a superstar. And again, their draft picks in Robert Williams, Peyton Pritchard, they've really done a nice job selecting the right picks and building an identity as a core, and this was able to help them make it to the finals last season. While the Milwaukee Bucks have quickly emerged as one of the best teams in the NBA with their superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo and their second option and all-star Chris Middleton, and then the acquisition of their third option, an elite two-way guard in Jrue Holiday, and a key acquisition also to their enforcer and tough defender in PJ Tucker. This was able to mold their identity and help them knock out the Brooklyn Nets that I talked about earlier on and make it all the way to the finals and beat the Suns to be crowned the NBA champions in 2021. This is the same thing we see with the Golden State Warriors. They have already established their identity with their nucleus all-stars in Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, and with their superstar in Stephen Curry. And like the Boston Celtics, they've drafted well and added key players in Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Gary Payton II, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and so on to build the next version of the Warriors. And thanks to this, they were able to win the championship last year. This trio had the possibility to be a version of the Warriors or even better, a dynasty that had the potential to three-peat. Yeah, I said it, they had the potential to three-peat. The pieces were there. They had an exploding young star in Cam Thomas, who we saw can ball, 40-point bombs. And then they had the rim protector in Nicky Claxton, Royce O'Neal, a nice 3-and-D guy, shooters like Patty Mills and Joe Harris. I obviously did not name the players that were acquired thanks to trading these guys, but even at that, the roster was still very solid and they still had the option to add other key pieces. However, we'll never know how this trio would have fared with those pieces playing a full regular season, now that they are all in different locations. It started with James Harden being the first to request a trade, and we obviously know that he landed in Philly. And then about a year later, it's just crazy for me to think that about a year later, Kyrie Irving requests a trade, and then he's immediately shipped to Dallas. There was a lot of noise made after Kyrie Irving decided to request a trade from Brooklyn. And if we did not know any better, the media would have us think that Kyrie Irving was the creator of all the dysfunction, the distraction, all the nonsense in Brooklyn, when that is not the case. Let me list a few of those distractions and see who really created that dysfunction, really. So the number one was his leave of absence, which I agree, that was uncalled for. That was really on Kyrie. I ain't gonna lie with that one. But the following one, which is we all know this one, that boy. Well, that, I can say that knowing what we know now, no, I shouldn't even say that. What we also knew then, because that was the camp where Kyrie Irving was and other people. But the media would have actually thought, well, Kyrie Irving thinks he's smarter than everyone. Kyrie Irving thinks he knows more. No, other doctors were also debating that side where Kyrie Irving was on. But they were also getting suppressed. They were also getting canceled for misinformation. So it just goes on to see that it was a case of one group being self-righteous, thinking that they have all the information, they have all the accuracy, but they did not want to take into account the other side of the argument. And that's where Kyrie Irving was at. And knowing what we know now, for the other people that weren't listening to Kyrie Irving, probably have a different perspective on that matter. So I don't really see any controversy on that. And now with the classic link that he posted onto his social media. That was Brooklyn creating all the distraction. Remember what Kevin Durant said? They could have taken care of that internally. They did not need to make a big show out of it. But obviously Brooklyn had to, again, mishandle that situation and create the dysfunction. So I'll let you be the judge. Who created more of the dysfunction? Kyrie Irving or the Brooklyn Nets? But let's hear what Kyrie Irving had to say about his time in Brooklyn after he was traded from Brooklyn and acquired by the Dallas Mavericks.
I just know I want to be places where I'm celebrated and not just tolerated or kind of dealt with in a way that doesn't make me feel respected. There were times throughout this process when I was in Brooklyn that I felt very disrespected. I work extremely hard at what I do. No one ever talks about my work ethic, though everyone talks about what I'm doing off the floor. I just want to change that narrative and make my own story and just continue to prepare in the gym. And now that I'm in Dallas, just focus on what I can control.
Very interesting what Kyrie Irving said, because when it comes to performing on the court, you couldn't tell that there's any distraction with him. It is evident that that distraction is fabricated and created by the media and the outside world. Because when it comes to him playing, there's no distraction. But when we got a player like Ben Simmons, who is truly a distraction to his team and potentially impeding on their success, I feel like that's more problematic. But anyways, that's for another video. But James Harden was also asked upon his return to Brooklyn if he was surprised or could have predicted that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant would no longer be there, which he said, yeah, stating that he could have predicted it.
Could you have imagined by the time you came back, Kyrie and Kevin would be gone? Yeah. Really?
I mean, I didn't just actually leave for no reason. You know what I mean? Like I was in a really good place in Houston. Obviously, we didn't have a chance to win the championship, but I was comfortable. You know what I mean? So for me to up and leave my family, and you know what I mean, all the things that I created there, to come to Brooklyn for a year and a half to try to get up and leave, it was for a real reason. You know what I mean? So, but I'm happy for the organization and what they've got back. They got some really good pieces.
I'm still not done. When Kyrie Irving requested a trade and was sent to the Dallas Mavericks, guess what? Kevin Durant immediately requested a trade of his own and was dealt to Phoenix. Coincidence? I think not. He did not want to stay in that dysfunction in Brooklyn, especially now that Kyrie Irving was no longer there. And listen to this. When Kyrie Irving was asked a reaction to his former teammate's trade to Phoenix, this is what he said: "I'm just glad that he got out of there." I'm gonna let you listen to the full interview.
Well, it's not the first time we'll be in competition as brothers. You know, I'm just praying for his happiness and praying for his well-being. Love the competition now that we can be in the same conference, and I welcome all that. You know, get to see him a little bit more, probably playing against Phoenix a lot more, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Everything else in between, I just am glad that he got out of there.
I don't know about you, but there's definitely something fishy in the waters of Brooklyn. On top of that, Kyrie goes on to say that This thing been going on. The turmoil in Brooklyn since my first year.
I think this was in the works. Like after year one, I wasn't sure about whether or not I wanted to be in Brooklyn long term. Again, because of the thing that was happening behind the scenes. I just did my best to put my head down and work as hard as I could. There were some unfortunate circumstances that came up there that were out of my control. Whether it be the mandate with the vaccine or missing games, me suspended, or just little things that I think just put wrenches in our journey.
With that being said, it is evident and as clear as my forehead that the Brooklyn Nets simply did not want to commit to this trio of talent. Now why is that? Well, it's simple. According to Kyrie Irving, that's a discussion for another time. And I feel him. We ain't ready for the truth. We saw what happened with the jab and the link. We'll definitely wait for the temperature to cool down for this one for sure. Anyways, it's crazy to think that the three of these guys, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, had all the powers to control their destiny on the hardwood. But this never really mattered since they did not have the one thing that truly mattered: time.